All right, here we have an RP that's fully dumping. Good chance that the problem's in check 1. So we're gonna take it all apart. Check 1, check 2, and the relief valve. All right, so what we got here, I got a 7/16 socket, swivel socket for the relief valve cover. Got a regular adjustable wrench to take the test cocks off, and I have a 1-inch, I think it's 1-inch socket for removing the check covers. I also have a number 2 check, a 1-inch, which is the same as if you have a double check, you can use the number 2 check for the first check. It's the low tension spring. I also have the 1.5 to 1-inch Apollo complete RV kit, as well as the number 1 check. It has a heavier spring, much harder to push. So if you're not used to using an impact driver to remove the covers, I mean, you can use a adjustable wrench to take them off, but I'd also recommend another wrench kind of to hold the body of the backflow while you're cranking on it. You don't really have to do that if you're using an impact driver. All right, I was incorrect on the size. Being this is a 1-inch, the socket that I was using was a 1-inch socket, but that's more for a smaller 3/4 inch. The socket that I'm using now is a 1 1/16. Fits fine. Where are we gonna put it? Always try to keep your parts fairly clean. You want to try to keep dirt, sand, debris out of your replacement parts. All right, so I don't really see anything, and there's a camera might not be able to see it, but there's a little bit of stuff in check 2, but that's not the problem. The problem's going to be check 1 or the relief valve. Oh, there it is. That is why it was dumping as hard as it was. Shell. Oh, they got a new meter got put in recently, and some shell must have got in the line between the meter and the backflow. So there you go. That's it. Yeah, if you can see it, the shell is just jammed into the rubber disc. I've got new parts, so we're just going to put that down there. So something that I've noticed about these Apollo backflows is these seats. After a few years, the seats get, like, the rubber gets bonded to the body of the backflow, and these seats do not come out. And like, yeah, these, see how I'm trying to push on it? It ain't budging. So all I can really do is get my finger in there, or get a little kind of abrasive Brillo pad, not a metal pad, but like the fabric pad, and just kind of clean the seat with that pad or my finger till it feels smooth. And if you find that there is damage to the seat, the only way that I can get these seats out is to take them out in pieces. You might get lucky enough and pry it and get it to pop out by turning it Yeah, just like that, it broke. Perfect example. Once they're in there, after a few years, they get stuck. So what I have to do now is, I don't know if you can see it, I'm gonna have to chisel out the seat. I'm gonna have to notch out a couple different sections and then pry it. But if you're gonna chisel it out, you gotta be very careful that you're not damaging the seating surface that the seat pushes into. If you do, you're gonna have to replace the whole backflow. And I've done that a few times over the years. Just being honest. So next is we're gonna tap this out. I just use a screwdriver and I use a little hammer. And hang on. All right. So in this case, we're going to carefully tap on this to create a break to break the seat, and then we can pull it out. And if any of you have more experience on these Apollos and have figured out a way to get these seats out without breaking them after they've been in a few years, I'd love for you to put in the comments. Aside from maybe getting a different kind of rubber O-ring to put on them, at least for replacements, that might be an option, but not for initial installs anyway. At least the kits come with these O-rings. In my experience working on Neptune T10 DC backflow meters, some of the old ones from the 90s used red O-rings, and those O-rings were notorious for bonding to the body of the T10 DC backflow meter. So these aren't as bad, but they're probably suffering from a similar process. Alright, don't know how easy it's going to be to see. Let me pull this screwdriver out. I've notched out about a 1/4 of an inch on the bottom side. And now I'm going to start prying out that 1/4 inch piece. And once I can do that, then I can pry out the rest of it. Hard to do with one hand. Alright, I had to chip away a 3rd section. Alright, you gotta watch out for some of the pieces. Some of them, they may want to go down into the relief valve opening. So you try to catch those if you can. I mean, some of them you may be able to get out once you open the relief valve, but you just try to avoid that. Alright. So you can see now how I've chipped away some of it. Now I should be able to get a screwdriver and so I'm going to get in here and I'm going to start prying and twisting and pulling out. Alright, so I got the pieces out. Now the only thing that's left is the O-ring. And the O-ring is stuck. So we have to get a screwdriver in there and kind of gently get under it. I'll get in there with my hand. Boom. Got the O-ring out. You know, another backflow uses the same kind of seat system would be the Watts 719 and 919. Those seats are also very hard to remove once they've been in for a few years. All right, so we're not gonna do anything to the second seat. It feels good, and now we're just gonna flush it out a little bit, and then I'm gonna open the relief valve. So we're flushing. All right, so now we're gonna take the relief valve cover off. can also use an adjustable wrench or an open-ended wrench to do that as well. All right, nothing retains the cover, so just got to grab the cover. Diaphragm. Sometimes you'll see these diaphragms with bubbles in them, holes. This diaphragm doesn't look too bad. It could probably be reused, but I've got a new kit, so I'm going to put a whole new kit in there. And then the relief valve itself, the assembly, just kind of wiggle it. You can use a screwdriver. So there's an O-ring right here that seals it to the body. So in this case, you could, if you're going to repair it, clean that O-ring really good, and then you could flip this rubber disc once. Could do that, but I'm going to replace it because I have a new kit. There's also a seat in here. You can replace that seat too. I'm not going to, unless... Nah, that seat feels good. So I'm going to do a little bit more flushing here, and then we'll put a new kit in. If you were going to replace the seat, relief valve seat, this is what it looks like. It comes in the kit. And then there's no ring in there for it. Again, sometimes these seats are just really hard to remove, so unless I absolutely need to, I don't remove them, I just clean them. These kits come with food grade grease. Always use food grade whenever you're working with backflows or meters or fittings. You don't want any non-food grade getting in there so it doesn't contaminate the water. So you just get a little bit on there, just a little, you don't need a ton. And then rub it all over. And then put it on the assembly. You don't want to get grease or oil on the RV disc if possible. If you do, wipe it off, because that will attract rust and that could cause it to immediately fail once you put it back together. Alright, so I flushed it. Now I got that O-ring on there, we're gonna position it in here. Just a gentle push puts it in place. Now we have the diaphragm. Diaphragm goes on so that the sensing tube opening has its own little hole there. That works. And now we're going to put it back on. Alright, so from here I finger tightened, put a few turns on. Now I'm going to gently alternate them. Be gentle with these, you don't want to strip them out. I have done that before. You can use a longer bolt and then put a nut on the end of it. You can if you have to, if you strip them out. Okay, now we're going to put the whole check one module in. So we've got the disc, or the O-ring for the seat, and then the O-ring for the cover. So we're just going to put a little lube on there. So when you got the cover, you just put the O-ring like that. And then the seat O-ring, you don't want to use too much lube, because if the grease gets into the check, it'll cause it to attract rust or dirt or debris, and then it'll cause it to fail. All right, so put my finger in here, feels smooth. Take the whole module, and again, this is the number 1 module, has the thicker, heavier spring that always goes in number 1 on an RP. If by chance you accidentally flip them and you put the light spring on the first one, you put the heavy spring on the second one, it will immediately dump when you turn the water on. So that's an indicator. There we go. Push it in until it's flush. And take the cover. Put it on. We'll tighten it down here in a little bit. So again, on check 2, we cleaned the seat. The seat's fine. We're not going to replace it because that's going to come out just like the first one did, in pieces. All right, so with check 2 being that we're not replacing the seat, we're just going to take the parts out of the new one. So we're going to take the disc holder and the disc and drop it in there. And we're going to use the new spring, although the old spring was probably fine. If you had to reuse it, you can. And then we put the little retainer in there. And then I also put the O-ring on there, all lubed up. All right, now that we've got the caps on hand tight, we're gonna snug them down. There you go. Now, just look around it, because sometimes the O-ring squishes out and you'll see a little bump on the outside, but that didn't happen here. You'll notice otherwise because it'll start spitting out of that spraying as you turn it back on. All right, got the test cocks on. Now we're going to tighten them down a little bit. Put the screw slot up or at an angle so it's easy to turn on and off when testing. There we go. All right, so now that the test cocks are on, tightened, and in position, you want to flush out all the air. So before I turn this on, we're going to turn that on, that one, and that one. And as you're blowing water through it, you'll then turn this one off, this one, and this one. All right. Alright, now it's fully pressurized. It's not leaking out of the relief valve, so we know check 1's good. 2, relief valve is holding, and we're gonna use the differential gauge in a moment, but that's not part of this video. So after it tests and passes, then we will slowly turn on the downstream so we don't create water hammer to restore the customer with water. All right, thanks for watching, guys.